Hi there, and welcome to a little presentation about protein-sparing modified fasting, or protein-sparing mimicking fasting, whichever way you want to look at it, abbreviated to PSMF. Okay, so just before we start, I just want to go into, I have a science degree. I'm a specialist practitioner in diabetes and obesity, qualified phlebotomist. I'm not a doctor, so all of this is not medical advice. It's just basically about the information regarding protein-sparing modified fasting. Okay, so let's just dive into it very quickly. It's a way of spending the day eating where you are eating just protein with little or no fat or carbohydrates being consumed. This is not about recipes such as PSMF bread. If you do want to find recipes for this sort of thing, there's plenty out there. Carnivore's Angel is a very good website if you're looking for that. There's plenty of others as well. We're not going to be talking about recipes, but how it tends to work and why you might do it or why you might not do it. So sometimes, like I say, it's called protein-sparing mimicking fasting. And as the name implies, what you're doing eating with this way with just protein is mimicking some of the effects at a cellular level of fasting. Okay, so why do we even talk about this? Well, when you look at protein sparing, which is mimicking fasting, some people believe when you do a water fast, for instance, there's a likelihood that your body will lose some lean muscle mass. If you go through the logic of this, if you've got fat to lose, it's very unlikely that your body will be breaking down muscle to supply with energy when there is stored energy in the form of fat on your body. But some people do believe that this is the case. It doesn't seem to be proven in many studies or any studies at all. But anyway, if you do believe that is true, this way of eating is mimicking fasting, and it's sparing your muscle. So the name protein sparing is probably a little bit misleading. It should be called maybe protein saving or muscle sparing modified fasting or muscle sparing mimicking fasting. So let's just get into that reason why that is one way of eating. With the protein, the theory is this is protecting your lean body mass while you're not supplying your body with energy, because the energy will be coming from carbs or fat. It's very difficult to oxidize protein for energy, especially in the presence of stored body fat or in the presence of dietary carbohydrates or dietary fat. So if you're eating just protein, the theory is that you can mimic fasting to a certain degree, get the benefits of fasting, which is obviously burning up your body fat, and your muscles will not be wasting away because you're eating this protein. So that's the real basis of this particular way of eating for a day or two. So essentially looking at protein as a priority and reducing your energy intake, effective energy coming from either carbohydrates or from fats. And this is akin to Dr. Ted Naiman's PE diet, which is stands for protein and energy. Fantastic person to look up if you want to know about this way of eating. Whenever he's talking about PSMF, he will say that if you're thin already, it can be particularly dangerous. And that makes total sense, because what you're trying to do is burn up excess body fat. So if you have no excess body fat to burn up, where are you going to get your energy from? One of the other disadvantages of doing this, if you're lean, is it can make you very hungry. So it seems to defeat the purpose of actually doing it. There are other reasons why people look at PSMF, and that is if they have a weight loss stall. Because if you're looking at the scale, it can be quite disheartening if you're doing everything correctly and the scale isn't moving. Now, if you are eating a certain way, such as keto or carnivore, and it's only the scale you're looking at and getting your feedback from, regardless of whether you feel well, your health is better, your actual body composition seems to be changing. If it's all about the scale, then instead of giving up keto or carnivore, because the scale is not moving, maybe this way of eating for a couple of days might be something just to shift that excess body fat. But let's look at health first. Many people experience improved health when they change to a carnivore or keto way of eating. And many people get weight loss But some become frustrated because they feel a lot better, but they don't get the weight loss. So why is that? If they're eating so well and their health is improving, but the weight loss isn't happening how they like. And as I say, some people actually, their body composition does improve. I've even had people tell me the scale hasn't moved, but I've lost an inch around my waist. You know, my trousers or my pants are fitting much better. My blouse or shirt is a bit looser, but the scale hasn't moved. So there are many, many reasons. There could be some other reasons if you've been eating in a terrible way for your health in the past and you have metabolic issues. Some people might be leptin resistant, so they don't get the appropriate satiety signal when they're eating, so they could be eating a bit too much of something. Some people are stalled by including dairy in their diet, so that could be something to take out rather than doing the Psmf. And some people are possibly eating too much fat and their priority is fat rather than protein. And I think most people would agree that protein is particularly important because it builds structures in your body, such as your bone and your muscle. If you've just started eating this way, carnivore or keto, for instance, or ketovore, looking at introducing Psmf is possibly not the best thing to do if you're still 2 months in or less, because you need to be doing your healing and getting over your carb addiction if you have a carb addiction problem before you do other things with your way of eating. So if you're thinking of Psmf as a couple of days, make sure that you're at least a couple of months into this way of eating before you try it, because you really need to give this way of eating a good go before you look at tweaking and biohacking. So if you're lean, it's probably not going to be good for you. But what sort of weight loss do you need to require for it to be beneficial? So if you've got 20 pounds plus to lose, then this may be something to look at. Protein is essential. And if you do not eat enough, your body will keep craving food. So it's good to prioritize protein. And there's some good sources of protein on your screen there. And what's the protocol if you do the Psmf? Well, protein intake is often recommended to be between 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, your ideal body weight, that is. So for an example, if you want to weigh 150 pounds, and I've put 150 pounds just to make the sums really easy, then you would eat 150 grams of protein per day. Now that doesn't seem to be very much protein. It can be a lot more for others. And a lot of people I've coached who have tried the Psmf have tried it with slightly more protein, maybe as much as 1,200 grams of protein, and felt pretty good and seen some weight loss. What you will see online is most people recommended sort of 500 to 600 calories. So let's have a look at this: 150 grams for a 150 pound weight person. That's only 600 calories. If you want to know how to work out the amount of calories in a food, there's 4 kilocalories in a gram of protein. So you just take the 150, multiply it by 4, you get your 600 calories. This is very low calorie intake, and this is why I don't recommend it or personally do this this way of eating, because I'm not a great fan of calorie restriction. I believe that you should eat until you're full and just eat the lean protein and possibly add some fat. So that's a personal thing. The reason for the addition of fat is because you still want to optimize your fat soluble vitamins. So that's just something to be aware of. But obviously, if you're only going to do a day or two of Psmf, then you might be okay just skipping the fat for a couple of days. So one study, which I've referenced on the screen, you can take a screenshot of this, and I might put a link in the comments for you. One study referenced below on that screen, they used 500 calories, and that worked. During the trial, they did all see a lot of weight loss, even with this low calorie intake. But the big thing that most people were looking at, the actual issue of muscle mass, their lean muscle mass was spared. So they did this way of restricting themselves, and it did seem to work out okay. But when you look at longer term studies or studies where they follow those people after 6 months, 12 months, there was a problem with regaining weight. As much as 50% of the weight was regained by some of the participants. And that's in a study by the International Journal of Obesity. We'll put that in context though, because a lot of diets or ways of eating, when that particular regime is stopped, most people gain maybe 80-90% of the weight they lost. They regain that. In fact, I would say anecdotally, people that come to me, when they mention things they've done in the past, not only do they regain the weight they lost, but they tend to say, oh, and an extra 10 pounds or something like that. So regain or rebound weight can be an issue. So that's something to be aware of when you're restricting calories this way. There are reasons for that, but I don't want to get into it. For this particular presentation, we're just talking about PSMF. So when you're eating the carnivore keto way, it relies on your intuition and actually listening to your signals. So you eat when you're hungry and you stop eating when you are not hungry or when you're full, however you want to put it. Some people, when they try this, haven't actually fully healed. They may have gut issues, they may have other issues which really need addressing first. So it's probably not for people to try this PSMF if, for instance, you still feel you have leaky gut or IBS or something like that. It's probably best to get those things sorted first before you look at this way of eating. It's definitely not for lean people, as I say. And if you have cognitive issues that you're trying to clear up, like anxiety, or you feel like brain fog, then again, let's eat the proper way first and look at this tweak, which is what PSMF is, really, a tweak, especially when your weight loss is stalling, something to look at. Then let's get your health first. So when you take fat out of your diet, what's actually happening? Well, fat is really essential in the healthy membranes of cell walls. So we need to make sure that we're having good quality fats. Most people do PSMF as like a 1 day or a 2 day thing. But there are also people talking about introducing it and doing it weekly, which may possibly be troublesome. So let's be realistic, and let's say you are trying it. You have a weight loss stall. You've been on the carnivore keto way of eating for a couple of months, and you've seen some weight loss, and it's not going as fast as you like, or you've actually plateaued. How would you do this? So a PSMF lean day, you would eat things like shrimp, fresh fish like tuna or cod, egg whites, not egg yolks, obviously, because there's quite a lot of fat in the egg yolks. Chicken is pretty lean. Turkey is pretty lean. 90% ground beef, obviously pretty lean. From the 90%, you can tell that. Or wild caught sockeye salmon and scallops. So really nice array of food there. And obviously you would look at what I said, 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So that would be your portions. And then you can do a fat day. And the reason I'm saying this is because some people do a lean, fat sort of approach. They have a lean day, and then they have a fat day. And if you have a fat day doing the PSMF, then you can have pork, lamb, ribs, 80% ground beef, egg yolks, and you eat the fatty parts first. So this is something, for instance, Kelly Hogan talks about on her YouTube channel, where she's got clients doing a lean, and then a fat day, cycling the 3 days like this. So that's why I mentioned that. Obviously, if you're just doing 1 day of PSMF, then you would do just lean, simple as that. The fat day really isn't PSMF. It's part of a protocol where you're doing lean fat over 3 days. I just want to explain actually why protein is particularly different to fats and carbohydrates. If you've got 1,000 kilocalories and you eat protein, that protein is going to be used mainly for structures in the body. It's going to make muscle, it's going to make bone and other things. Secondly, 25% of the calories or kilocalories that you've eaten will be used up actually just digesting the protein that you've eaten. That's called the thermic effect of food. It's really rare that protein is oxidized for energy. So you're looking for building from protein. So what you're trying to get rid of is energy. So for instance, carbohydrates, good source of energy. As you can see, only about 5% of the energy taken in is used up to digest it. And the same with fat. You have just about 5%. But fat and carbohydrates are your energy supplies, and protein, like I say, structure. If you go in a little bit more detail, you can call it effective energy. So effective energy from carbs and fat and protein, like I say, is more about structure and building in the body. So protein gets broken down into amino acids, like I say, used for structures such as bone and muscle. And if you're excluding fat, well, what's happening there? Well, fats get broken down and they're used in many things such as storage of fat-soluble vitamins. I know we've spoken about this before, but just want to make sure everyone knows cell membranes, and it's occasionally, more often, used for energy in this way of eating. So I would say when you're taking in fat, this is why we talked about possibly having 30 grams of fat on your protein sparing modified fast day, because we still want to have the storage for fat soluble vitamins, cell membranes, and then there's a little bit, like I say, for energy. But if we have a small amount of fat, then it's unlikely that it will be used for energy. It will be used for those other things first, which are much more important, which is the fat soluble vitamins and cell membranes. And these are the two essential macronutrients. There's no essential carbohydrates whatsoever, because our liver can make carbohydrate. That's the end of the presentation. I hope that's been helpful. And if you have any questions or comments, please put them below. Make sure you subscribe. Please smash the like button, as they say. And hopefully that was informative and interesting for you.